Hey everyone, this is Chris Laparty. I'm here with Dan Corntine, and welcome back to A Father's Love Healing Through Heartache. Um, Morning, Dan. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing same old. Every day's kind of the same obstacle course of life that we travel through.
It is. It is indeed. Everyone, hey, thanks for joining us. We know everyone's time is precious, whether it's spending time with your family or work you got to do. So, taking the time to listen to this, we really appreciate you guys. And I just want to throw that shout out real quick. So this week, I am actually pretty excited for this episode. I talked with Dan a bunch about how he set up his foundation, Jameson's Joy, and trying to get to the motive and the reason why he did it. And he explained why he had done all that to me personally, and it helped give me the motivation to not be afraid to jump in to try to do it for my family with Miles for Mason. So this week we're going to get into some of the reasons why, how it helped us mentally, and how you can do it too if you really want to. Dan is a perfect person to explain all this. Just a regular Joe, we are. That's all we are. We're nobody. We don't have any extra training or anything like that. He went in, just figured it out on his own and went through the trials and tribulations, and he's going to share some of his knowledge with that. And I'm going to be kind of doing a lot more of the interviewer questions, asking them the questions. And but with that, I'll throw it over to Dan. Dan, why don't you tell us why? I know we've talked about it before in other episodes about Jameson's Joy, but talk to us about why it motivates you, how it helps you, why you really spend so much time on this amazing organization.
Hmm. Well, thanks, Chris. Yeah, a lot of what we're going to say today, it's going to be a review of other episodes, points that we've made. The biggest thing is that when we lose our loved one, we don't want them forgotten. It really it's that simple. And any opportunity that we have to say our child's name, to hear our child's name, to hear how our child has affected somebody else is just an absolutely amazing way to remember our kids. And so I mean, it really comes down to that. It's that simple. As I've shared before, Jameson's Joy was started actually by one of Jameson's best friends in Fuquay Varina, and then by the community in Brevard, North Carolina, when we did the random acts of kindness thing. We were just planning on doing a day of kindness, and it took off and became something so much bigger so quickly that I started having the thoughts right away that maybe there's a way that I can use Jameson's name and Jameson's legacy to make a difference in the world. And so I started talking with a couple people close to me, and we went forward with it. One of the initial things that's hard is people, I guess, people who are not grieving. I guess the wording they use is that they feel like sometimes we're parading our kid around in public or parading our kid's death in public. That's the phrase I hear the most often, I guess. And that is something that I've thought about multiple times over the 2 years. Is that, yeah, am I doing things for the right reason, and am I doing things in a way that, yeah, it doesn't look like I'm just out there parading around the fact that my son died. And I don't know if that makes sense. It makes sense to me because I'm in it. But I hope everybody can understand what I'm saying. It is by no means something that we're happily running around saying, "Hey, look at Jameson, look at Mason." We would give nothing more than to not even be thinking about creating a foundation. We wish our boys were here, but the it comes down to a very simple decision to talk about. We can curl up in our lives and just be miserable and non-functioning and non-productive in every area of our life, or we can intentionally choose to move on and do something with our loss. And that's what I chose to do based on the community response with Jameson, that I felt like there was a way that we could make a difference in the community and maybe even hopefully the world, in honor of Jameson. And so I went forward with it.
No, I think that's you bring up some amazing points, some things that you helped me focus on. I was talking to somebody the other day about Mason's passing, and they had also lost their child, and they had mentioned pretty much the exact same thing you said. Uh, Dennis, Dan, you know Dennis. We've talked a little bit online with him. You know, he had mentioned to me like I could live a life and I'll just be bitter the whole time because everyone else had their child and I lost mine. Or I could say, okay, I'm not going to let this sadness and bitterness consume me and make me a horrible person. I had to he had to consciously think about, I'm not going to be that type of person. And he really focused in on being a good person because of the loss and trying to make the best out of what life still had to offer. And, you know, that's the way I want to look at it too. I want to make sure that of course, we're sad. Dan's sad. I'm sad. My family's sad. His family's sad. But the sadness isn't going to bring our boys back, no matter how much sadness we have, and that's a harsh truth that we have to deal with every day. So we're not going to get our boys back, no matter what. What do we do to really honor them and show how important their lives were to us? And I think setting up Jameson's Joy and us working on setting up Miles for Mason and trying to make a difference in our community, whether it be the world or just our little town, it doesn't matter. Whatever we can do to make it better in this extremely harsh environment of the world today, why not do it? So that's the way I'm kind of going into it too. Um, and I think, Dan, you set it up perfectly for us. I appreciate you again. And I know the people of your town are very happy with Jameson's Joy and how much random acts of kindness are really helping everyone all over.
Yeah, you just said something I think is absolutely key, about being a good person. Uh, I do not feel like I'm a good person since I lost Jameson. I am exhausted, so it's hard for me to function on a daily basis. We've talked about that before. I don't feel like I'm really good at my job. I don't feel like I'm a good husband. I don't feel like I'm a good father. I am mad at God. I'm mad at. And I have this part I have to say carefully. I I have anger toward situations, not toward people, but toward situations when they have issues with their kids, health issues, and their kids end up recovering. That is something for people who have lost a child that is very difficult at times because why didn't my kid recover? It's not fair. Um, I'm not a good person mentally. I'm angry. I'm not a good person. So the foundation is a way that I can still try to do good things even though I feel like I'm just a miserable person who is failing at pretty much everything in my life at this point. And so yeah, that is a driving force. And I think about it a lot, that how hypocritical is it that my foundation for Jameson is Jameson's joy and I don't have joy. and nobody's called me out on it yet. But if I ever do get called on it, it's like, again, it's the key thing is it was Jameson who was joyful. It's not Dan's joy. Um, so it's a struggle to do it, but it's a way that I can try to make a difference in the world and do good for other people, even though it's hard for me.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the hard part is I'm sure before Jameson passed, you were that good person that you want to be again. And that's kind of what makes it difficult too, because you remember who you are as a person. I've mentioned it before. I'll say it again. When you lose a child or when you lose somebody extremely close to you, your spouse, parent, all of that, when you lose them, you actually change who you are as a person. You are not the same person you were. I 100% know I am not the same person that I was before Mason was when he was still with us. So navigating those difficult waters of figuring out who you are as a new person, because that's really you're a new person, you have a new family, whether you want to admit it or not. In my opinion, you have a new family now. It's a different dynamic without that loved one with you, and that's why these foundations are important to us, helping us navigate those difficult waters of who are we now, how can we try to get to who we want to be now, because we are different people any way we put it.
Absolutely, that's totally true. And if I didn't have the foundation, it it's another one of those things that haunts me mentally of how as miserable as I feel like I am so much of the time now, I can only imagine how miserable I would be if I didn't have the foundation, because that is my outlet for trying to do good and trying to, yeah, I want to be joyful. I want joy back in my heart. And I want to be happy on a daily basis. And I want to be good at my job. And I absolutely want to be a good father to Reese and a good husband to Erica and a good friend and all that. But I can't. I don't feel like I can right now. And the foundation helps me. It gives me that goal, something to strive for, that so that I do continue to heal and just grow as a person. I know Erica and I have talked numerous times. I think Chris and I have talked a little bit. There are so many grief groups out there on Facebook and everything that when you lose somebody, everybody's, oh, check that out, check that out. And I've checked out a lot of them. And the majority of them are, they're obviously filled with people whose grief is fresh within months. And obviously you get that. But there's a lot of people in those groups who Erica and I have had to leave a couple of the groups because the people in there, there's a lot of them who are 20 years in, 10 years in, and they're like, I am still just every single day not able to get out of bed. And that is obviously not healthy. I think anybody can see that. And we're not saying that it's not going to be easy to get out of bed, or we're not saying it is going to be easy to get out of bed. But if you are still 10 years later or 22 years later having that much trouble functioning on a daily basis, then there were some serious missed opportunities in whether it's therapy or a foundation or whatever it is to help you with your grief along the way. Um, and we don't want to be like that. We we want we don't ever want to forget Jameson. We don't ever want to forget Mason. But we also want to be able to move forward and hopefully have a more joyous life at some point, sooner rather than later.
Yeah, for sure. And I have a couple other dad friends that have lost their children. One of them is 10 years in. One is Dennis, he's over 20 years in since losing his child, and they both tell me the exact same thing. And this is where I get the hope. They both tell me The hurt never goes away. They're still sad. But, and here's the but, they live happy lives now. They appreciated the time they had with their kids that they lost. And, they're very Christian men. I'm Catholic, so, I have the same beliefs. They think their children are in heaven with God, and that's what gets them through the day. And they're able to live very healthy, happy, productive lives. I see the stuff they show online or just talking to them in person, and I think to myself, I'm going to get through this. It's going to be hard. It still is hard. We just passed the 1 year anniversary of losing Mason this past week, and it's hard. But I'm going to get through this with friends like Dan, with family that are helping us. Every time we go home, all of our family is supporting us. Just with my wife, with Amanda, we support each other a great deal. Um, so I have hope for the future, if that makes sense. And I think, Dan, I think you have that hope too. And I think we're going to get to that point one day. Not probably this year, probably not even next year. But I think as the years keeps going and as the shock continues to wear down a little bit more every year, and we come to that realization more and more, because there's always that little piece of you for some reason that thinks this is still kind of a dream, it's not real, and they're coming back. But the logic in us knows that isn't true. Um, but we're gonna get through this, Dan. I think, and that's just how I feel about it. I don't know how you think we're. I think we will. I think us supporting each other, we can get through this.
Absolutely, and it is. It comes down to hope, and that's where, for I know for us at least, faith is enormous. We've talked before about Eric and I've had many talks about suicide, and suicide is not an option. That is, I mean, not even crossing our mind as deep in the valley as we feel like we are. Suicide's not an option, but we can totally understand how people who don't have faith and don't believe that their child's in heaven and that we're going to see them again someday, we can totally understand why people would contemplate and even attempt suicide, because it is awful. And yeah, without, I have that hope that, yeah, Jameson's up in heaven and someday, yep, we're going to be together again. And that is the sole reason why we keep going. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, it is definitely. All right. So with that, though, when I first met you and you told me about Jameson's Joy, and we've heard the story about how the random act of kindness and how everything started. Let's get into. I'd like to hear about when you finally said, "Okay, I'm doing this." What were some of your first steps to start Jameson's Joy? How you got the ball rolling and what you ended up doing? Because I know there's legal stuff, there's financial stuff, there's processes and procedures that you went through, and I'd love to hear, and I'll be jumping in here and there. I'm gonna let Dan tell his story, but I'm gonna be jumping in, asking questions as he's talking.
All right. And absolutely, Chris, interrupt me at any point because I know how I am. I forget things. Um, yeah. So it started. The first step actually was, I think, a great example of how people can help. Using, we've talked before about using your skills that you have to help people who are grieving, and one of those things for me was that I happened to, in a conversation, mention the idea with somebody, and he was more it was a dad who was more talking about just the impact the service made, and my message of say yes, how that really had hit him hard. And then he again, he's the one that said, you know what, Dan, I think there's something here. I think and he's a very successful businessman across the country. Where so when I was listening to him tell me that he felt like there was something there. That's what really started getting my thoughts going of did I want to or not. And so the first step very simply became I needed to talk to an attorney and to find out again the legal process. And I'm in the state of North Carolina. I have absolutely no clue if this is a uniform process in the other 49 states or not. But it was actually setting up a foundation was actually very simple. In the state of North Carolina, you need to file articles of incorporation, which, if I remember right, was like a 1 page or 2 page, very easy to fill out application of what do you want to do, why do you want to do it, that kind of thing. And then I handed it over to the attorney. She did what she did and submitted it to the Secretary of State, I think. And a few weeks later, I got the articles of incorporation from the state of North Carolina. And that is what allows you to then file with the IRS through the Treasury Department and to get nonprofit status. And so again, I filled out whatever the 1 or 2 page application was. It was really easy, and she sent it in, and I waited. And that was really, I mean, it was a super simple process. Um, the big things for anybody that that's considering a foundation for whatever reason, I would recommend strongly that you spend some time on Google searching for any other organization that has a similar mission that you do, because it's very easy to recreate the wheel. And as personal as it may be, depending on the reason why you're doing it, if it's already being done by somebody else, especially somebody that has a big name nationally or internationally, it's going to make that much more difficult for you to really get going and really truly have an impact. As big as what I think we dream we want with a foundation. So spend some time on Google to see what's already out there and figure out how, if you want to reach out, and maybe it's better that you don't start a foundation, but you reach out to them and you join them with their foundation and just help them make their mission better. Or maybe you tweak yours a little bit to be able to start your own thing. And that's where I did that. And there's some things out there about random acts of kindness and all that, but as a formal group, there's I only found 1 or 2 things that really were very formal, and it didn't look like they did really a ton of things outside their area. So that helped me decide to move forward with it. But
So hey Dan, if are you saying in your knowledge that if a person wants to do a specific mission or they have a specific goal and someone's already doing it, that they shouldn't even that they might not get approved for it? Or I guess the only reason I ask that is because I think of like dog rescue nonprofits on how they're everywhere and stuff like that. So if someone has something really set in their mind, like, hey, I really want to do this, it'll just be a little more difficult, but they could still do it, in your opinion?
yeah, I don't think there's any legal. I don't think you'll be rejected at all. I think again the process will be super easy, but executing your mission will be hard. The first thing obviously is funding. You're going to need funding to do whatever it is you want to do, and especially in today's world, people are hard living rough lives, having a hard time supporting themselves and their families, and to take $5 to donate, as good of a cause as it may be, that may be a full day of food for their family. And there are people that, understandably so, are not going to donate as much as they want to. And if you're not raising the funding, you're going to have a hard time carrying out your mission. So even though, yes, you'll get approved, you'll exist as a nonprofit, What are you going to be able to do with it if you don't get funding? People's time is very valuable. And again, if like I think a rescue is a great example. There's a lot of those, and they all do amazing work. But if you have 3 or 4 rescues in the same area, you're just taking the resource pool and really spreading it. So how effective can 2 or 3 people be separated from these 2 or 3 people, separated from these 2 or 3 people, when they're all doing the same thing? And if they joined forces, maybe their impact would grow exponentially. It's just something you have to really think about if you're considering a foundation of what's going to be the most effective thing to reach whatever group you're trying to reach.
No, I think that makes a lot of sense, especially as I'm slowly working through this process for Miles for Mason. And, we're doing this teacher fundraiser right now, trying to raise the funds, like at least initial funds for anything we're going to need to start the nonprofit. Um, I have been thinking about, okay, it's difficult on my end being in the military because I know I'm moving. So, you know, what can I do to raise those funds to, as I keep moving and as a lot of my support is all over the country or even the world, being a lot of my friends are military friends, it's not something where I can, it's just something I'll have to work on with once I get a board set up and we come up with game plans of how we can do it. But I can definitely see where you're going with that.
Yeah.
Um, so
And
once
I
you
think,
have,
let me interrupt you real quick, Chris.
yeah,
Just I think you have what should be an advantage in starting a foundation because you do have worldwide contacts, a lot of them. And again, there are some people that want to do just there are people that want to just a very small local mission, very specific. And there's nothing wrong with that. If that's what you want, go for it. But again, that's what I'm saying. You got to think about that beforehand of what exactly do you want to do and how big do you want to grow it, and let that help guide you through your decision making. The kindness thing for us was that's kind of how everything started. And yeah, the whole world needs more kindness, but my ultimate goal is what we're focusing now with dads. And I don't want dads in Brevard, North Carolina to be better dads. I want dads all over the world to be better dads. And Chris and I have talked about it before that dads matter too. There's so much focus on moms, rightfully so. But obviously, Chris and I don't have a whole lot of experience being moms. And I wanna reach out to those dads. I want the dads of the kids that I've taught for 21 years who come to school every day sad because their dad they don't have a father in their life, or their father is always traveling for work or whatever. I want that impact so that we can truly change the next generation. There are some people who they want to change right now. This is something bad right now that I want to fix, and that's awesome. We need that. But again, if you're thinking about it, do you want to change something now, or do you want to change something for the future? It's something you have to think about and make that decision as you're going into it. All just so you have clarity of what do you want to do, where do you want to go with it. The more you can get clarity from the beginning, the easier all the subsequent steps are going to be as you work through it. And as again, we're 2 years in, where a lot of people have gone back to their normal lives, we haven't, and Jameson's Joy hasn't. And we want to make an impact that changes the next generation because this world certainly needs some help in a lot of areas.
yeah, for sure. And I think, I actually am struggling a little bit right now with the clarity of the mission statement for Miles for Mason. I have goals in mind, but um, whether. So here's the thing: there's not a lot of ADEM awareness of what Mason passed away from. I had never even heard of it before Mason got it, and as I do more research, it is a very rare condition. So I want to bring awareness to that and help people who have ADEM recover because it is typically a something that people can recover from. Between 70 to 90% of people that get ADEM recover. Um, and I also, but Mason was so into sports, like it was just his world. So I really want to help kids with sports too, and so I'm having conflicting. What's the goal? Do we have two goals? Do we have one goal? Do we focus on that one goal? I'm not smart enough to do this by myself. I mean, I feel like I'm a smart guy, but I'm gonna wait and set up a team, and then once we have a team, and I can use the team to our advantage as an organization instead of trying to put it all on my shoulders and mine and Amanda's shoulders, um, just to really help kind of get going with that. And Dan, if you want to talk a little bit about your team and how they helped you, I think that'd be good.
Absolutely, yeah. You need to get a team right off the bat, and I didn't. Obviously, I didn't know that going in, so I didn't do that. And we're actually 2 years later. We're just now really having those discussions about what is our mission, what is our vision. I mean, from day one, I've known I want to help dads, and we want to be kind, but what does that look like? And so that our board meetings this year, we're revising our bylaws and we're really um, getting that clear mission. And I have just an absolutely incredible team of people. The one for this particular task of doing our mission and our values and our bylaws, she happens to be the former director of the Boys and Girls Club in our town. And so she's done this before with a nonprofit, and she is a master at fundraising and grant writing and all that. And when when she reached out to me and said, "Hey, I'm interested in serving with you," I'm like, "You're hired on the spot, lady." You want people who know the process. I Ideally you can have a legal person, and as close as you can get to a legal person who can handle the foundational, the governmental piece of things. That's There's their area of expertise on your board. You have to have a treasurer. That's absolutely required, and you don't want the president or director of the board or the organization to be the treasurer for obvious conflict of interest things. So you need to find somebody that's comfortable with money, and as I said before, that's the hardest person because that's a big responsibility, and it's very easy to have outsiders look at you and question if you're doing things on the up and up, and get into questioning your value and your character and your morals. And even if you're totally clean, just that perception can really impact negatively. So I understand why people are very hesitant. Plus, just the fact that if you do your job wrong, I mean, who knows the impact on the foundation that you care so much about. So, but we need treasurers. We need somebody that's good at that to work with us. Um, you need a writer. I've discussed that's one I wouldn't have thought of right away, but my original board member, one of them, is a professional writer, and I have learned over time her value of just everything I want to put out there, having been able to send it to her to make sure that it's written well, because English is not my best subject. I'm a math guy, so I'd be great at treasure. Um, Chris, if you need a treasure, maybe we can talk. We'll see.
Yeah.
Uh, but I am so thankful that I have a professional writer to proofread all my copy and to help me word things so that things are clear. That's awesome. I have. She's a self-proclaimed. It's not you won't find it on any of the Google searches of what positions you need for a board. But I have a cheerleader on mine. She is she does not want to do treasurer and all that, but this lady will serve everywhere for me. Every time there is an event, this lady is there serving, and she's bringing her family to serve. And that is a wonderful, wonderful person to have on the board. Just the kind of the yes man. Um, she'll do whatever she's asked. and we don't know specifically what her task is going to be, but we know when we have the talks about different things that she'll do it, and she'll do it gladly, and that's just awesome. And then you need people who are good thinkers. I talk a lot in the teaching world about brainstorming is a lost art. People, we can't have discussions anymore. It's either this is the way we have to do it. No, you're wrong. This is the way we have to do it. And you need the people who are able to sit there and say, hey, let's put both ideas on the board and let's work through them both and see how we can pluck out the good parts from both, get rid of the bad parts, or maybe that thing that you're so much against right now just needs one little tweak to it. So you need those people who are able to rationally and calmly hear other people's opinions, process it, and then help navigate through to whatever the best compromise is. Um, you need leaders. There needs to be a president on your board, and that needs to be a person that is really truly committed, who you can really contact at any time. Especially if you're serving on my board, because especially when I started, I had so many. I wanted the whole world, and I wanted to do this, 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 this. You need the people who are not afraid to say, Dan, no, put that, get rid of that, or let's table that maybe next year. And they know that they can do it in a way that you're not going to get upset and say, get off of my board.
So, what is your official position then, Dan? Like, how does it work with the positions? Because obviously, you started the organization. You're the main driver for the organization. What is your official title and position? And then I know we went, and then there's a president of the board. It sounds like, which is someone completely different.
Yeah, I guess I'm the director, executive director, whatever fancy title you want to put on it. It was kind of funny when my board and I talked officially about it all. I changed my Facebook profile to Executive Director Jameson's Joy, and I got flooded with congratulations messages. Everybody thought I was leaving teaching and this was now my paid job, and it's like, no, I'm still not making a salary. Um, just you, and I hate calling myself a title, but you need to in order to be effective and reach out to donors and reach out to people that can help you spread your mission. You need the title. So I'm the executive director, and then there's we on my board I have a president, vice president, treasurer, secretary. You need a secretary to take all the notes, meeting minutes, and all that. And I have my cheerleader. Um, the
So, we're thinking about it. I mean, it's a pretty small team overall, though. I mean, it's not, and I'm just saying this for people that are listening that want to do this. Like, you can do this. It sounds like you only have about five other people that are helping you, somewhere around that number. And, you know, as long as you have people that you trust
Mhm.
that will give you the very honest truth right up front with everything, whether it be the money or the, the writing or any of that stuff, the board president, people can do this, and they might be able to even do it with less. I'm sure maybe some of those jobs could be doubled up. Secretary doesn't have to. If you're really desperate, a secretary could probably also do another job as well, since their main job is just for when you guys do meetings. I think I'm not for sure 100%, but you can correct me if I'm wrong, Dan.
And I think actually, and that's where we would need a lawyer. There actually may be laws or rules. I don't know if they're a law that says no, you can't double up. I don't know that answer. But yeah, you. I want to say for some reason three is the minimum number. That may be a required rule. Or I may be totally wrong. I don't know. But yeah, you can have a really small team. You can have a really big team. But again, the assigned titles, you need a secretary, you need a treasurer, you need a president. So you need to have at least three people for those roles. Um, you can then have those people double, like, I mean, any of them can be the grant writer or the fundraising chair or whatever. Those aren't mandated positions. So in that regard, you can double up. But the secretary and the treasurer, you don't, and president, you can't. You don't want to double up those three. First of all, I don't know that legally if you're allowed to, but also just so everybody can focus on their task and make sure it's done in the best way possible. Because, especially for us, this is my son's name. I don't want my son's name dishonored by anything this foundation does. And that that means I want people who I can, like Chris said, I can trust. I know they're going to do a good job. But it also means, hey, you're a great friend. I love you, but there's some things in your life that I don't think are going to honor my son's name. And that sounds judgmental because I am by far a perfect person. I hope I've made that clear with what I've shared. Um, but it's my son's name. And you bet I'm going to do everything to protect my son's name that I possibly can. Um, but again, yeah, if you can have a team of 9 or 11. What's that magic number where there's too many? That's something only you can decide. But if you, I think one of my people who I was asking if they would serve on my board, and I again, you need people who are honest and open with you, and I appreciate him so much. He looked at me and said, "What would my job be?" And I'm like, honestly, it's because one of my board members just left, and I need to fill a spot, and I like you and I respect you. And he's like, thanks, I appreciate that, but I'm not the right person to serve. Because you want people that will offer different things from other people so that you can just a wider variety of thoughts and ways to work through processes and ideas and everything. Um, and if you bring somebody on that's again, there's my grant writer. This person knows how to go find grants. That would be a great spot to add on the board. This person is a businessman who has, like a Chamber of Commerce president, who knows every businessman in the town very well and can go out there and work on building business relationships for sponsorships and things. That would be a great separate person to add. It's just something you have to look at where the holes are of what's your goal again. What are you trying to accomplish, and can that person add something unique to help you get to your goal? If so, bring them on.
Yeah, and I think the one of the things you taught me is like, don't just take your best friend just because they're your best friend. You really got to make sure that they're going to bring something to the mix. They have to, or else you're just wasting everyone's time at the end of the day. And with the limited time everybody has for everything, throwing a nonprofit into the mix, like you really want to make sure these people are going to do what you need them to do. So having that trust.
Yeah.
Okay, Dan. So we've talked about setting it up and some of the quick legal things and positions. I think people need to hear though some of the difficulties that can come from setting up a foundation to make sure, because you don't want to go through all this effort completely blind to and just think everything's going to be fine and dandy, no issues at all. Every organization has an issue, and I'm sure you've had issues that you've had to grow and learn with. If you wouldn't mind sharing any of those trials and tribulations you went through.
Yeah. The biggest thing for me was getting started so quickly. Um, and now having, like, as I already said, having to go back and redo things in a better way. Um, Especially when it's something as emotional as Chris and my story is and why we want to start the foundation. It's super important to take that step back and breathe and take the time. And I think this is where, Chris, you're probably very fortunate in one sense that you're being transferred. It's giving you more time to think about things, and that'll help you set your foundation up and just be more effective. It's not that it's bad, but you want to be effective as quick as possible, and you're getting that time to do a lot of steps and a lot of thoughts that will help you launch in a very effective way. I think I think we launched very effectively because we knew immediately it was kindness, which is pretty easy. That's just spreading a message, no money needed. But we also knew, as I've shared before, I think, that our first goal was the fitness course in town. So we had that. Our dad focus was one of those things. We knew that was going to take time, so we put that on the second level of goals that we wanted. We knew we wanted that fitness course, so that was our clear advertising. Every penny that we get is going to that fitness course, and every ounce of energy we had was going to that fitness course, and that was helpful. Again, you want to know what your goal is, and your goals can change. And you can, I believe, you can have two different focuses. Chris, you were talking a little while ago about ADEM awareness and the sports. One of my sponsors at one of our fundraisers, very early on, he came up to me. It's like, Dan, I want to support you, but kindness is free. So what are you going to do that requires money? Why should I give you more money? And that, again, I appreciate so much his honesty, because he wanted to help, but people aren't going to pump a lot of money into an organization that's simply saying, "Hey, everybody, go be nice." Because why do you need that money? Um, I think I don't know anything about ADEM other than what you've shared. My gut feeling is that ADEM awareness probably isn't going to take a lot of money, other than maybe like copy costs to print flyers, a website, things like that. But the sports angle, that certainly is going to have a financial piece.
Yeah.
So it's okay. I think it's okay to integrate both of them into your foundation, because they're two different. And I think people will understand the ADA one. That's an obvious thing, because that's what's so darn personal to you. And then the sports thing is what there's the practical, tangible thing right now for everybody, or not everybody, but a lot more people can relate to that
Yep.
right now while you're building the ADEM awareness. And who knows
Yeah,
when
and I
that'll
think
come into.
my idea is, because this affects kids typically between the ages of 3 to 10, the most, and that's where a lot of youth sports are. If I could say, hey, you know, we're gonna pay for your kid's registration with sports, and hey, here's this quick flyer about ADEM too, and it's from Miles or Mason, and you know, you hit, like you said, hitting up both at the same time, bringing that awareness to what ADEM is, so people can understand. Hey, here's if you see this, bring this up to the doctor, because, to be honest, my ER doctor had no clue what he was doing. He thought Mason was having a seizure. Mason clearly wasn't having a seizure, and it slowed the process down a lot. Um, and I don't fault the doctor with that, because it's a rare condition. But if people know about it, and they can be like, "Hey, you ever heard of ADEM? Could this possibly be what he's having, or she, whatever?" Like, at the same point, bringing that joy of sports that Mason had to other kids. I think you're right, and I think that's the route I want to go with it. And I agree 100%. Like, you really have to have the tangible something you can touch, because just like kindness, you can throw awareness out to anything, and that's all it is. It's just you throwing it out there. There's no money involved with it. So um, that's kind of I 100% agree with you.
Absolutely. And I think I know Erica and I haven't publicly shared what took Jameson, but yeah, again, it's something. When I researched it, I think it's a very rare condition, and it typically takes kids much younger. And for whatever reason, we got Jameson for 9 years, even though everything on the internet, I know, for what that's worth, everything on the internet said if they make it past year 1 or 2, then this condition isn't really generally an issue. Um, but yeah, the thought of it, like Chris just said, having that awareness that, hey, here's a rare condition that could it be, so that they don't just like, because I know I've shared before, if we had gone to the hospital, they would have dismissed us, sent us home as Jameson has the flu. And having that awareness that, hey, doc, I have a friend who went through this very similar thing, and it wasn't the flu. It's a very rare condition. Could you check for that? Could you just do that extra X-ray or CT or whatever, just to make sure? And Chris and I have talked numerous times, and this goes for the awareness part, but the foundation. If we can change one life, then this is successful. And that it's it's been hard for me leading Jameson's Joy because again, I want the world. I want to change the world in Jameson's honor. But I know that there's a couple people that are directly affected regularly by what we're doing. That makes it worth it. This podcast, Chris shared a couple weeks ago about the gentleman that reached out to him. We know that this podcast is at least helping one person. We hope it's helping a whole lot more. But that again, that's what we've got left. We don't have our sons, but we can try to make somebody's life better with what we're doing in our foundations. And especially if it's somebody who's grieving, who's considering suicide because of their pain, if we can help with that, that obviously is huge. If it's somebody that, if we can save one life of a parent who's in the hospital and say, hey, doc, what about this ATOM thing? And it, I mean, golly, if Chris's foundation does that and literally saves a life because of the work he does, then it's a success.
Yep, that is the ultimate goal. Just wanting to make the world better in this horrible time. And I know you and I, Dan, we're gonna keep pushing with everything. Gonna keep with our plans with the podcast, and hopefully keep helping whoever listens. And make sure if you're listening and you have questions about the foundation, I know Dan will throw it out at the end. I'll get it eventually, Dan. I promise. Jameson's Joy email address. I keep forgetting it for some reason. Shoot him an email over at Jameson's Joy because he knows what he's doing. He's been through the trials and tribulations. He's been fighting the good fight for Jameson's Joy, and I know he's helping dads out there now. I brought up before about the Daddy Hug book, how much my little guy Carson loves it. We read it all the time, and I know other dads are going to appreciate that because that is no easy feat, and you guys put the hard work and effort in that, and I'm going to thank you guys for doing that for your local area, your local hospitals, and for all the dads out there.
And that's where it's a community effort, and that takes us right back to the heart of the foundations that we can't do much at all if we don't have the support in the community. And that's where again I think Chris, maybe you have an advantage because you have worldwide connections, like serious worldwide connections that, man, that you have to think if you do everything right, that can be very useful. um, but it takes the community. Foundations and nonprofits don't succeed if we don't have people believing in what we're trying to do. And that comes with, again, it comes with board members, serve people willing to serve on the board. It comes with people willing to come to your events. It comes with people willing to listen to your message, and it comes with that financial piece that we have to have. And it's just, again, everybody has a role that you can play. You may not have the ability to donate financially, but maybe you have some time. So donate your time. You may not have any time, but you can easily write a check. I keep saying I'm still waiting for that big check. Somebody out there has a big check of 10 grand or 50 grand, that they like it. They wouldn't even flinch. It's like, oh, you need money for, you want to give 5,000 dads a book, and it's only 50. I mean, I make $1 million a year here. Here's your 50 grand, Dan. I'm still waiting. If you're out there, send it and send one to Chris while you're at it. But everybody has a role to play, and if you're not sure what it is, ask us. Send Chris an email. Send me an email and say, hey, I support what you're doing. I don't know how I can help. can we talk? And Chris, I'm speaking for Chris. He'll correct me if I'm wrong. We would love to sit down with you. If you care enough to join us in honoring our son, we're going to have that conversation to find out where you can plug in. And again, it may be a cheerleader. And this cheerleader I have is an absolutely amazing person who shares every one of my posts for the foundation. She's out in the community. She's serving at our events. She's trying to fundraise. She has a husband that works in the local news who's helped get a little bit more news coverage. There is something that you can do to help. The biggest thing we need is people who have it in their heart. If your heart is touched by either of our stories, reach out to us and let's see how you can help.
Yep, I no need to correct you at all, Dan. Everything you said was perfect there. With that, I think well, maybe a good time to wrap it up, and want to thank everyone again for listening today. We're here to help, and Dan's helping me grow with this process, and we can work together as a team to help you grow if you would like, if you're looking to set up a foundation. And if you're not even sure what you want to set up your foundation for, shoot us a message. We can shoot some ideas out there for you as well. I know an advantage of me being in the military is I've moved a lot and I've seen a lot of different parts of the country and the world. So I have seen some things that could always use help, and I know Dan has a lot of connections too with the teachers. I know he knows things that we can help you set up a foundation if there's something you want to honor a memory for. With that, thanks again. I'm going to give Dan the last word here, and I look forward to talking to everyone again. Dan?
All right. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Again, if you have any questions, comments, ideas, concerns, or if you want to talk to us about joining our team and trying to change the world, you can reach out to us both if you have our personal emails or if you're friends with us on Facebook. Or Miles for Mason is up on Facebook. Jameson's Joy is on Facebook and Instagram. And you can use the email info@jamesonsjoy.org. I'm going to make Chris write that 100 times today. Info@jamesonsjoy.org. It doesn't matter if it's Miles for Mason. I will get it to Chris. Again, I'm walking alongside him. This is a joint partnership here for both of us. But it's a way that you can reach out to us, and I will get it to Chris if it deals with him. But thank you all for listening. And we look forward to the next episode of A Father's Love, Healing Through Heartache.